A huge shout out to one of my friends over at Budget Films. He makes some really cool videos. I do some voice acting for him, for some skits, some history videos, and some all round fun. So if you're bored, go down to the link in the description, check out his YouTube channel. Throughout my reptile keeping experience, I've come across a few things that I think will help out other reptile keepers. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 reptile tips, tricks and hacks to help you with your reptile keeping life. I'm Toby, this is Coco the crested gecko, Paco the crested gecko's soon to be girlfriend hopefully. This is Toby's Exotics, and let's just get straight into the video with number 5. So we're going to kick off this video with number 5 with a reptile tip. And this tip is, if you haven't already, get some of these tongs. Get some feeding tongs. Before, with my collection, I didn't have these guys. Whenever I was feeding an animal, for example, you would put the live food or something in front of it and it would try and hunt it. Although, say if that's a cricket and it just bounces away. So if you have your animal out, then you try and hand feed it and it goes too far and bites you. I especially noticed this with the crested geckos. It doesn't hurt, but it gives you a bit of a jump. These guys come in handy so much. I feed all of my animals with this. If they will take like insects and stuff, I will feed off of these tongs. My friend recently got feeding tongs and he adores his as well. So if you keep reptiles and you haven't got these tongs, definitely try and get some. And you could always put it on your birthday or your Christmas list. It's a little bit late for Christmas just now, but if you got quick shipping, I suppose you'd probably get it before Christmas. These guys really come in handy. On to number 4. Next up, for number 4, we have a little trick, and that is egg cartons do just as well as cork bark, or something along those lines. For example, with my assassin bugs, I used to have a cork bark tube, sorry, not a cork bark tube, I used to have a flat of cork bark, and I used to sit up at an angle on the corner of their enclosure, and they would hide under it, and it'd be all fine. And then one day I decided to swap it out with a piece of egg carton that you'll probably have seen in their enclosure in my previous assassin bug video. And that has actually benefited them. And these only cost around 2p, or you can get them for free. For example, if you get your eggs and you used up all your eggs, you're about to throw it in the bin, just hold back one. Because the cork bark, for example, it'll cost 5, 10, even up to £20 per piece. So save money with egg cartons. I have personally found that even egg cartons benefit because it gives little pods for all the animals to hide in. On to number 3. This is number 3, and as we get lower down the list, the better the tip, trick or hack gets. This one I need to explain first of all. So in order to have a heat mat properly heating a reptile enclosure, there ideally needs to be a little gap in between the actual enclosure and the heat mat, especially if you're sitting it on top. Because what happens is if you put the heat mat there and then you put a heavy item on top of it, it causes a greater fire hazard. So you've got to kind of, that's why sometimes you can see if you buy a heat mat that it comes with little stands, although they're little sticky stands that really don't do very well because they're rubber. So I found that actually getting a piece of paper, or especially playing cards, if you get a playing card and fold it twice, so you've just got a quarter all folded up, and you put them under the corner, the 4 corners of your enclosure, and then put your heat mat, slide the heat mat underneath it. I'm sure I'm probably showing you a clip just now, especially with my scorpions tank. Have them, and then you slide the heat mat under, then it's a whole lot easier. Also, when you're using a heat mat, make sure that you do use a thermostat, also to prevent fire hazards. But I always notice, I used to just put my enclosure straight on top of the heat mat, and now since I've started elevating them a bit, they're not getting as hot, there's less of a fire risk. So yeah, definitely take that into consideration, and that's a good tip for you. On to number 2. And number 2 actually has a little bit of research behind it, and that is when you get your animal's live food. For example, you go to the pet shop and you get your crickets. underneath the crickets, or the substrate that the crickets are used, is sort of a wheat or a barley or something like that, and it's actually proven to be quite bad for the crickets. It's only there to make sure that no moisture gets into the enclosure, into their tubs, so that they don't get mouldy. So actually the crickets aren't meant to eat that, and it's literally there just for moisture purposes. So instead, once you get your crickets, get them into a large enclosure, tip them out, and if you need to keep them in the tub, replace that sort of barley-ish stuff, change that for chick crumb. And I know that sounds really weird, but trust me, this stuff is absolutely magical. This stuff, I have hatched out chickens and ducks and stuff, so I had this lying around. Actually, if you replace it with chick crumb, it still does a little bit of the moisture control, but also when your live food eat it, it gives them nutrients, it helps in the gut loading process. Always make sure you provide them with sort of leafy greens, their carrots, all sorts of things to try and gut load your feeder insects. Also, you can dust them before you feed to the animals, but definitely when you get any live food that you get, take it out, even wax worms, super worms, Oreo worms, replace that with chick crumb, and that benefits the animals a whole lot. And fun fact, the bedding that they come with in the pet shop, if they eat too much of that and you give it to the reptiles, that can actually have a bad effect on your reptiles, because there's some sort of thing that the bugs get from eating it that pass on to your reptiles that can, I'm fairly certain it slows down their digestive system, something like that. It's bad for them anyway. So definitely exchange it for chick crumb, it's a whole lot easier. On to number 1. Now, this trick I actually discovered myself by accident. So I used to keep a lot of praying mantis, and I'm planning on getting back into them. But it came a time that I wanted to start breeding these guys. Unfortunately, it was a failed attempt. I only got 3 babies out of the youth, but that's another story. Anyway, when you get the mantis, you need to separate all the babies to stop cannibalism, and you do that by buying these cups. So the basic setup is just a 4-ounce plastic cup. You get the lid, you cut a hole in the lid, then you get some fine mesh, put it on top, and put the lid on. And that provides a house for each separate mantis. I ordered a ton of these. I've ordered about 400 of them, thinking I'm going to get a big hatch of mantis when I didn't. So I had these lying around, and I have found them so helpful. My baby assassin bugs go in them. You can use them, for example, if you're doing a big feeding, you've got to clean out old food, from example the hissing roaches. Just take around one of these, just put in all the extra mouldy food, go, tip it out. So these guys come in really good use. For example, if you're taking bugs down for your friend has a new animal and it hasn't tried this certain type of bug, put them in that, chuck that on, now you can take them down. These guys come in so much use around my reptile room. Also, I would give you a tip. Make sure that you get environmentally friendly ones, so that they are biodegradable and they don't harm the environment, because obviously if everyone goes around buying these plastic things, it's not going to help the environment. So that is my list. These are definitely super handy. That is my list. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't, subscribe, turn the notification bell on. We have a new animal arriving very soon. We actually have a new arrival already here. It's a snake. It's just settling in right now. So soon I will be able to do a video on that. But we have a new arrival coming, sort of mid-January. So stay tuned for that. There'll be a video on that. I'm really excited for it, and I'm sure that you guys will be as well. Like the video, comment if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much. Peace.